Who's ready to hammer some bets for NFL Week 1? Because that is exactly what we will be doing in this video. I have 3 of my favorite plays for Week 1 to give you in this video. One thing that I do want to note before we start is that I have partnered with Sporttrade, a sports betting exchange. If you are located in New Jersey or in Colorado, I highly recommend downloading Sporttrade. You are consistently going to be getting the best odds, the least amount of juice charged when you are using Sporttrade. So the odds that I'm going to give out are going to be via Sporttrade. But if you are not in New Jersey or in Colorado, you can still download Sporttrade to see what pricing they have, so you can kind of use them as a book to compare odds. And then also, you can still take the plays that I'm using, just use them on your book of choice. But if you are in New Jersey or in Colorado, I would appreciate it if you were to download Sporttrade using the link you see on the screen here. Use promo code MODI, as that helps me out a ton, helps with my partnership with them. And let's get into some plays for Week 1. Number 1, my first play for this video, we're going to take the Commanders minus 9.5. That is at plus 122 odds at Sporttrade. So I have a couple things to say here. Number 1, I did sell a couple points to get this to 9.5. The main spread for this one is 7.5, depending on what book you are looking at. But I like for the Commanders to win by 10 plus. Sorry to say it, this Cardinals team is just simply a joke. Any self-respecting power rankings that you look at for these teams heading into 2023, they're going to have the Cardinals as the worst team in the NFL. And even to go one step further, looking at the Ringer and how they ranked offenses and defenses, they literally gave the Cardinals the worst offense and the worst defense in the NFL. Literally the worst offense and defense. That's crazy. Even bad teams aren't as bad as this Cardinals team. And in terms of their quarterback, they're either going to be starting a 4th-round rookie, Clayton Tune, or they're going to be starting Josh Dobbs, who has been on his 3rd or 4th team and hasn't even been with the this Cardinals team for the entirety of the offseason. So he's going to be catching up. And regardless of who they're going with, they had Colt McCoy as the quarterback taking the first team reps pretty much the entire offseason until they just recently cut him maybe 10, 15 days ago. So whoever starts is not going to have the first team reps of the entire preseason. They're already going to be starting at some sort of weakness. The team, the Cardinals, they just have no talent at all. I urge you to look at this Cardinals roster and see how many players, how many names you recognize, or I urge you before looking at the roster to see how many players you can name. Kyler Murray doesn't count because he's not going to be playing in this game. Zach Ertz is probably going to be out for this game. On offense, you really can only think of James Conner and Hollywood Brown. And on defense, you really can only think of Budda Baker. They traded Isaiah Simmons. They lost Murphy from their team last year. They lost Zach Allen on the defensive line. They just have no talent in their head coach. Everybody's seen the videos by now. Total loser, weirdo, does not inspire the team at all. I cannot be more out on this Cardinals team. And on the other side, I hate to admit it, I think the Commanders might be good this year. Even if they're not, they won't need to be good to beat the Cardinals by 10. On offense, it's all going to depend on how QB Sam Howell looks. He looked good in the preseason. All reports out of Washington are that he looked good. We never know until the game is played. I will say, against this Cardinals team, A, he doesn't even need to play that well for them to win by 10. And B, he doesn't even need to be that good to play well against the Cardinals. So we kind of got both points there. But the real reason why I'm on the Commanders to win by 10 is because the Cardinals offense and the Commanders defense. Pretty high on this Commanders defense. Think they could be pretty good. And really, I'd be shocked if the Cardinals were able to score even double-digit points in this game, regardless of what QB they start. The Commanders have a very good defensive line, a very good front seven, starting with Chase Young, who is primed to have a bounce-back season after being injured the past 2 years. And Daron Payne, they have Jonathan Allen, they have Montez Sweat. They just have a very deep and talented defensive line. And the Cardinals, they're really bad on offense and defense. They're also really bad along their offensive line. PFF gives them the 2nd worst offensive line in the entire NFL. So this game might end up being 20-3. Doesn't matter how many points the Commanders score because I'm not projecting the Cardinals to score that much. Love getting the Commanders selling a couple points to get them to minus 9.5 as our first play. Next up, we are taking the Bills versus Jets game to go under 46.5. This is at minus 104 odds at Sporttrade. So these teams could be two of the top 5 best defenses in the entire NFL. And on the Jets side, it's possible that they're going to start slow offensively integrating Aaron Rodgers. The Ringer gives the Jets the 2nd best defense in the NFL, and it gives the Bills the 6th best. So both of them being in the top 5, not outlandish at all. Last year, the Bills finished with the 2nd best defense, and the Jets finished with the 6th. So kind of flip-flop there between this year's projections and how they ranked last year. For my money, I think that the Jets are going to have the better defense. They have blue chip talent at premium positions with Quinnen Williams at the defensive line and Sauce Gardner at defensive back. I do think that overall the Bills are going to miss Von Miller, but I'm not necessarily sure that's going to be in this game specifically. The biggest swing unit that you'll hear everybody talk about for the Jets is their offensive line. And heading into the year, PFF is not highly rated on this offensive line. They give them the 23rd ranked offensive line in the NFL. Obviously, there's a ton of unknowns and maybe they can gel, but even if they do, some growing pains are to be expected. And on the Bills side, their offensive line isn't projected to be much better, as PFF gives them the 22nd ranked offense in the NFL. Or excuse me, offensive line, 22nd ranked offensive line in the NFL. Now, obviously, this specific stat we're going to talk about isn't perfect because things can change over the course of a year. Obviously, a ton changes over the course of a year, but last year, both of the games between these two teams went under 46.5. Actually, none of these games even had 40 points scored. The first game was 37 points were scored. The second game, 32 points were scored. So even if you figure that the offenses are going to be better this year against each other than they were last year, they're still going to need to have multiple scores better to cash this over. So I think that there is a ton of value on this one going under. And then last up, my third pick for this evening, for this video, is the Packers plus 2.5. This is at minus 127 at Sporttrade. So for this one, we had to buy a little bit to get it to minus 2.5, or excuse me, plus 2.5, but that was the best value. In terms of rankings, I did find it kind of funny. PFF ranks the Packers as the 18th ranked team in the NFL. This is in their power rankings article, with the Bears only one spot behind them at 19th. So PFF expects them to be pretty similar. Now, for the Packers, obviously, this isn't a hot take. The biggest mystery surrounding them is going to be with Jordan Love, sitting for 2 years, now finally becoming the starter. You can't really say that the Packers were too high on Jordan Love because they didn't even exercise his 5th-year option. Instead, the two sides came to kind of a team-friendly extension. But even if Jordan Love is average, that's really all the Packers offense needs to be good. Last year, which we all can agree was a down year for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense, they still finished with the 11th best offense in the NFL, according to DVOA. Yeah, it's not the top 10 offense that we commonly saw under Aaron Rodgers, but 11th is pretty good. Looking at this year, PFF gives them the 8th best offensive line in the NFL. They're getting David Bakhtiari back healthy. At running back, they still have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. At wide receiver, they have explosive talent in Christian Watson. They also have other intriguing young talent such as Romeo Doubs and their rookie tight end that they drafted. But the reality is, I'm just not sure I'm ready to buy the Bears. I think that I understand why they're a Cinderella team because they traded for a top tier wide receiver. Everybody's projecting Justin Fields to take the next step, but we're going to have to see. Even though they supposedly did upgrade their offensive line with signing Nate Davis and drafting the tackle in the first round, PFF still gives them the 21st ranked offense in the NFL heading into 2023. And compare that, as I mentioned, the Packers have the 8th best. And overall, looking at the starting Bears offensive line, 4/5 of their starting offensive line is either brand new to the team or starting a new position. So even if they end the year as a good unit, similar to other teams, some growing pains should be expected for this team, especially their offensive line. Now we get the Justin Fields, who I'm just not sure I'm ready to buy. Yeah, as a fantasy asset, he could be electric, but as an actual winning quarterback, I'm just not there yet, and I'm not sure even how electric his scrambles are, whether that's sustainable. He's already gotten hurt a couple times in his short NFL career. And again, these stats are from the Ringer. He, out of 33 qualifying quarterbacks, he finished 33rd, so last, in sack rate. He finished 32nd, so second to last, in interception rate, and 16th in fumbles. So he turns the ball over a lot, and he gets sacked a lot. And we're not sure their offensive line is going to be much better than it was last year. So sure, you're going to see some spectacular plays out of Justin Fields, but in order to actually be a good quarterback, you need to be consistent. and I'm just not sure we're going to get that from him. So I love backing the Packers in week 1, rounding out our 3 picks for the evening. So remember, if you are located in New Jersey or Colorado, download Sporttrade at the link you see on the screen here. Use promo code MODI as that helps me out a ton. Regardless, recommend riding with me on all 3 of these picks. If you do, comment and let me know. Other than that, remember to like the video, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.